Perfect. All right. Thank you for everybody for joining. This is the third session that we're conducting, but we'll go through the complete end-to-end of this project. My name is Sashi. I have been working in this area of farming and gardening for over 10 years. I've run multiple companies in terms of garden services business and have set up farms here in Atlanta. We also have set up some farms back in Florida. We'll talk about my projects. We are all here to talk about a specific project that I'm looking at executing with the participation of all the people. This is a mission statement that I'm trying to write up. I'll continue to update this. So our idea is to create an agri-tech company, bringing passionate people for executing professional farming business and make profits while connecting back to our farming roots. The idea is we want to really earn money. I have no confusion between passion and the business. So we're combining both of them together, but at the same time, we want to earn money in an area that we are all passionate about, that is farming. Especially for me, it's a serious passion. So what is that we want to do, achieve as a company at some point? Let's purely talk about numbers, very materialistic discussions. Ideally, we should be able to ring the bell in NASDAQ. That sounds like a dream, but we want to really achieve the dream. My view is that you have to start dreaming first to achieve anything, and then you have to wake up and start acting on it to achieve the dream. Now, here is a visualization that I'm trying to get for everybody, that includes myself. We all want to co-own a large farming operation, and we want to grow tropical foods, and we want to spend quality time in the farmhouse. And with all these things, in coming few years, we should be able to register or open up an IPO, at least the company in NASDAQ, right? It may sound to be very futuristic or very big dream, but then yes, that's what we want to really run towards. Okay. And why do we do all this? I work for IBM. I'm into IT for the past almost 20 to 23 years. At the same time, while I love my job, farming and gardening is something which I'm quite passionate about. I really want to do something in this area of farming. My family background is farming, like most of us. I come from the very small town back in Andhra, near Rajahmundry, called Mandapeta. We have farms, but then we have never done our farming ourselves. We have always just leased out the land, and we call ourselves farmers, but we are mostly a farm business owners. That's it. We really don't have any touch and feel of the soil. That used to be the history. But now, back here, we are actually getting deep into the farming activities. We are doing it ourselves. We are doing each and every activity ourselves. So it's a serious passion for us. And that's a major driving factor. And growing food, I feel, is the most noble business that we can get into. While we talk very materialistic aspects of it, but then if the materialistic aspect can be combined into the noble cause, that's the best of both worlds. Right? And there are multiple ways to make money. I can earn the same thing in, or much better in IT jobs, but then that doesn't really give me the thrill or the kick out of it. So that's why we are getting into this farming activities. Okay. Now, we talked about three aspects of it: investment into the farmland, having farming as a business, and then having a farm house. So out of that, farmlands, why do we want to invest into farmland, and that too into central Florida? Let's take it as a overall Florida, but then we will dissect into multiple regions of Florida. Now, currently we're talking about central Florida, right? Now, let's talk about first farmland investment as such. I clearly remember a statement somebody said: if you have some money, buy gold. If you have more money, buy farmland. I'm very hooked onto that one. So earlier, when my dad used to buy the farmland, I used to really wonder, why would anybody do this? And what's the return on investment, in the sense, when do we do anything? When do we get back anything? Now, if I look back 20 years down the line, those farmlands are appreciated really well. That's back in India scenario. Same scenario across the world. Farmlands are the less volatile investments. Now, if you look at any of the historic data within the US, there is a minimum of 6% year-on-year appreciation in the farmlands. And there is very low volatility. There may be recession, there may be issues, there may be these things, but then there may be a dip in the real estate, like any of the booms that burst. But at the same time, farmlands are something which are always stable, and then they'll always come back for worst scenario if it goes down also. And Florida, why specifically Florida? Because of the activities that we are looking at in terms of growing tropical fruits, Florida is the best place. Florida is the place where you can grow year round, and the lands are very good for growing the tropical fruits. And the availability of land at an interesting price point is possible in Florida. And within Florida, we are talking about Central Florida because that's the capital of orange farming. A little bit of history on orange farming. Florida used to be the topmost producer of oranges back 15 years back. It used to produce for the entire United States, and also it used to export to many different countries. But about 15 years back, there is a virus that has come from China. It's called citrus greening disease. This disease have really created a havoc in the farming industry, especially for citrus. Citrus is all like oranges or any of the lime and different crops. This scientists and doctors describe this disease like AIDS. It doesn't kill the person, it reduces the production. And by giving proper nutrition and care, the life of the trees can be extended, but the production cannot go back to the original. So because of this disease, all the farmers started facing losses. For example, a farmer spends about $1,200 a year per acre to maintain the growth. The output used to be more than $4,000-$5,000 in terms of revenue, and so there is a profit per acre. Now that output has gone down drastically to some $1,500 or maybe less than that sometimes. So it becomes very risky proposition, and farmers are making loss. That's the reason farmers are selling these lands. Why can't they get into another crops? It's the same reason on why in India, why in Andhra, we are not able to get out of rice and get into different crops. They got used to it. There is low risk appetite. They have less investment capital. And then mostly the other part of it is the children of the farmers are not getting into the farming, and they're all getting into the typical jobs. Just a scenario of India. The average farmer is about 60-year-old now, and there are no new farmers coming in. That's the reason it's all getting into issues of they're not able to make money. At the same time, they're selling off their lands. So those are the lands that we're buying now. And what kind of lands do we buy? Are not just the farming lands. We really get into the lands that are close to the city, that has plans to get into the city in terms of residential zoning in the near future, and which appreciates. In a way, if you look at, we are all into real estate business, and farming has become the secondary now. But at the same time, we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket. The investments that we are making, we are putting a good amount of sum into the real estate that increases year on year, and it is low risk. At the same time, we'll also do the farming part of it. And a lot of people are moving from outside states into Florida because of the weather, because people are able to work remotely, and because they want to pursue these passions. And people want to retire in Florida because of the warm weather. That's really increasing the demand for the land. And then Central Florida is relatively cheaper compared to the South Florida. The best of the climate is South Florida, that is 10B zone. Central Florida may get into 9B or 10A zones. And because of the availability of large extent of land and existing infrastructure and everything, the lands are relatively cheaper. We are talking about somewhere between $12,000 to $15,000 per acre. That's quite an affordable amount of money that we can buy the lands on. That's about the Central Florida. Any questions so far on this? Feel free to ask any questions as and when we have these discussions. If there are no questions, I'll move forward on this. And why did we choose sitafal? It's the fruit that we all grew up with, and it has high demand within US. We are 4.8+ million of Indians, and sitafal is not just consumed by Indians, it's consumed by South American countries. By the way, sitafal originated from South America. It's not an Indian fruit. Many years back in 1800s or so, when people voyaged, then that's when they have taken this fruit, and then it went into different countries, and so that's how it went into India, where it's a Southern American fruit. It's loved by all the different Asian communities and South American communities, and so it has a big demand. Unlike other fruits, it can't ship very well. It's very perishable. If you harvest it early before it ripens, it doesn't ripe. If you harvest it late, once it starts ripe, it won't take the transportation. That's why it becomes like a tough fruit to import from different outside US. That's where it becomes an advantage for us to grow locally and ship in a quicker way with the right transportation within the US. And there is a very less production in US. The way to look at the less production is that look at when would you find sitafal in Indian store? Once in a year, very rarely, in a couple of stores. I'm just admitting some people. That's how the demand for sitafal is. And there is very, very less production. With the higher demand, less production, that's always the fruit that we should bet on. And why sitafal in Central Florida? Sitafal, like in any tropical climate, any tropical fruit, ideally it's, let me mute. If people are not talking, can you go on mute, please? All right, I'm muted. So ideal climatic conditions would be homestead, but then we are talking about $100,000 an acre of land, while the Central Florida is 10,000 to 15,000. With that, now sugar, the sitafal. By the way, I would be interchangeably using the word sugar apple and sitafal because I got so used to the term now. It's all sitafal that we eat. It's called sugar apple here. This particular fruit, the best advantage is that it can take cold. It will get a little dormant during the cold season, but at the same time, it will come back. But it doesn't mean that we can grow sitafal in Atlanta in our cold. It can't take that kind of a cold. It can take up to certain amount of cold. Central Florida have frost, but it won't be like in Atlanta or in New Jersey, different kind of places. So we chose this because it can take the cold, it can produce well, and it gives us better yield. Right? Any questions so far? I'll take a quick pause for anybody to ask any questions. All right.
So, Ashish, one question on this.
Yeah.
So once we have this tree, so when you say, what is the, if we have an extreme weather, let's say example, Florida also having some extreme weather, cold up, does the tree dies or is it come back? How it works?
Yeah. So extreme weathers have to be clearly defined. Let's say freeze of up to 6 hours. Even the oranges and every tree would stay. So sitafal has no problem in that. Any extreme weathers beyond 24 hours, it would be a problem for any kind of these trees. But then that's in the historic data, you won't find that. Right? With the cold times, you will see the entire tree sheds the leaves and it goes dormant. But then it all comes back the moment that cold temperature gets better. So we have seen this farm in Florida, which is especially the very close, about 10-15 minutes or half an hour away from the land that we bought, who has been successfully growing sitafal, and so they're doing very well. And so that has given a lot of confidence. Earlier, I was a little kind of hesitant. We have invested in about 750 plants in another project, and we were a little worried. But then looking at this farm, which is doing very well, we got a very good comfort on that.
Okay.
So to answer your question, it will come back.
Okay.
All right.
So for one more question. So
Sure.
for once, I mean, once we after 4 years, so how frequently the fruits, I mean, the production will come? I mean, is it once a year or?
It's in once a year for about 6 weeks.
Once a,
Typically, it starts in August, September. Some of the fruits extend till November, but then we should, August to November is what we can think about, but then your peak production is about 6 weeks.
so August to November.
Yeah.
So yeah. One more question. So do you know the current production rate in entire US?
No, absolutely no data. This is a complete unstructured industry. For example, we can have this data for in tomatoes, how much has been produced and how much is getting sold for. We have this data for oranges, blueberries, but not for this because there is no, this is not a standard fruit that is grown here. Even USDA wouldn't have any of the data and no farmers would go and report them. So that's why we won't have this data.
Oh, I see. Okay.
All right. So we talked about why Central Florida, why Sitafal, right? Now let's talk about our whole overall farming model. Now, any questions before I get into this? Okay.
One last question.
Sure.
Do we have anyone already been established with this farming of sitafal in previous year, or is it new things that we are doing right now?
No, so I've been visiting homestead for many months, and I see a huge growth, let's say 40-acre, 50-acre growth in homestead growing this. So this is not something which we are going for the first time. We would be very early entrants, but not the first ones. And very close to our farm, we have seen a 10-acre grow, which is doing very well.
Sure. And we also have market locally, not only targeting Indian groceries, or do we have that like towards
I would
Walmart?
say a primary market is going to be Indian groceries.
Okay.
And I feel we need about a couple of hundreds of acres to be able to serve the existing market.
Oh, okay.
Right. So today, Sitafal, when you find in Patel Brothers or any of the Indian stores, it's minimum $10 a pound. Has anybody bought Sitafal recently? Anybody from the group?
No.
Right. Now, when we get them, it's a $10 per pound. And then our experience is that they're quite hard and there is no guarantee that they will ripen. That's because of the unstructured market and very low supply. Now, I purchased about 200 pounds in Homestead and then sold it locally in Atlanta for about $10 a pound. I finished all of them in less than a couple of hours in terms of sale. So the demand is high, but again, selling 200 versus 20,000 pounds is a lot different ballgame. Right now, I can't just take a data saying that I sold in 20 minutes and so we'll be able to be very comfortable. But then we have enough of data in terms of the number of Indian stores. By the way, I'm already a producer of gongura and moringa locally in Atlanta. I ship to different local stores and then they sell it to the Indians. So all the logistics are very clear for us. So
Okay.
it's quite a high demand fruit there.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Shashi, yeah, Pramod here. So, like you said, from September to November, only 2 months, right?
No. So consider starting October to November.
Okay.
That's a large range. Some fruits
Okay.
start early, some end up late. So if a tree starts it will produce for over 2 weeks. 6 weeks could be a stretch, but then at least for a few weeks, let's say 3 to 4 weeks easily. And different fruits.
So our marketing or our production would only be sticking to these 2 months, right? So are we planning for any other things in the farm which would really generate any other business or like income? I mean, because right now we are only dependent on one income, which is Sitafal. Only if it goes fine, that's all good. Okay, what if, like scenarios?
Oh, sure. So I have started research on almost at a good stage of looking at bamboo. Bamboo farming is coming up quite well. I'll send some details about what is the potential in the US, and you can also do some due diligence about that. I'm much more confident, or no, I won't say much more. I'm equally confident about bamboo farming and guava, Thai guava, the guava that you find in Indian stores, the light greenish, crunchy. That's the one which has high demand. Good thing about guava is that it will start production in 1 year, right? So with all these different fruits, I'm also thinking about chiku, but for now, these three are quite at a good stage candidates. Now, we would structure our farm to have multiple, this meeting will end in 10 minutes. So in any case, if this meeting gets over, I will update the meeting link in the same invite in Facebook. Everybody please get onto that, and then we will get back again. All right. Okay, hopefully this won't really stop the meeting. Hopefully they will extend it by default. Let's see that. Yeah, and to answer your question, yes, we're looking at bamboo and guava. Right. I don't have the complete numbers yet, and that's the reason I have not updated the PPT yet. But then that's what I'm thinking about. Let's say out of 20 acres, we will distribute maybe 5 acre each, and then maybe look at one more crop in the rest of the other 5 acre, or maybe we'll have one crop to be 10 acre and 2 to be 5 acres. That's something which we can think about. or we can distribute.
That helps, because as I said, if it is only one thing, if you're dependent on, like, it might be a risk, right? That's okay. Yeah, thanks.
All right, so our farming model is that on the left, we have all the investment partners. They're all putting money into this. We will buy farmland, we will do the farming operations, and we will have the farmhouse. Right. I would be the promoter. I would execute this entire project. We will have support system, like we have agronomists, labor contractors. We'll have use a lot of farming technologies, and we'll have a farm crew. We'll do the right production management techniques. We have delivery logistics in place, and we'll do sales and marketing. With all this, finally, so the three different things we are looking at the product profits from. We're looking at primary profit from the produce, and the next profit is from the land appreciation. This is a very long term, and then profits that we can make from the farmhouse vacation rental. There are two things that can happen here. When the investors, the primary reason why we want to build a farmhouse is for the investors to come and stay and enjoy. If there are periods where there are nobody occupying that, we will open it up for Airbnb or whatever to make some money revenue, and that would help us in maintaining the farmhouse. This is a negligible return that we are talking about. The primary large return is what we're talking about is from the farm produce, and the next large return is from the land appreciation. Now, this entire system would be executed on high tech. When you say high tech, we're talking about a digital investor platform, wherein all the investors would have portal, wherein you would transfer money into that, and then you would have all your documents, you would have updates of the farm there in that particular platform. And we will have the very periodic status reporting. Like in any organization, when we're executing a project, it's very important for all the stakeholders to understand what's going on. So we will have the periodic status reporting, and we will have the access to the farm live. When you say access, it's not just visual access. We will have the ability to understand the soil moisture in the farm, the humidity around that, and various aspects of it. We'll be investing heavily into IoT devices. As I said earlier, we want to make this as an agri-tech company rather than very standard, simple, traditional farming. While the idea is not to jazzify this whole thing and play with the toys, the idea is to get every productivity out of all these investments, because the moment you have data, you are able to take right decisions. We would use all the sensors-based systems based on the moisture. We have triggering of the irrigation that saves us on the cost of electricity, right? And then overwatering is always a problem. To look at what is the right watering, we need all these sensors. That's how we would structure this entire project. So any questions on this one? For all the new people who have joined, this is the first time you must be seeing this. Please feel free to ask any questions that you have.
So you said you have the current farming, right? So do you have another portal like this for the existing farms?
No. So the current project that we have, that we are undergoing, is about 1.6 million worth. This project is friends and family, very closed group of 10 people is what we have invested on. So with this one, we didn't go for the portal setup. Now the portal setup is for the largest section. Now we're getting into, we will get into at least 50 plus people in this. That's where we are looking into all these activities.
Thank you.
I'm surprised there are no questions on the farming model. This, I thought this is a very loaded question, loaded slide.
Shashi, one quick thing. I mean, I have one question. So how are we, when we say, I mean, we are spending at least 70% of the funding on operations, right? So how are we dividing that operations into, like, I mean, like, say for any consulting or any portal is one of the thing that we might have, right? And that we need to spend on, and maybe any kind of research, or like, are we consulting any research people or to examine the trees, if they're growing right, or if they're getting any diseases or something like that. So how are we really like bucketing the finances?
Yeah. So once we get into the whatever the next sessions, wherein we have the investors who does a soft commit, I will open up the entire Excel sheet which has the complete data. But again, let me give it at a very high level. Right. Once we buy the farm is with orange groves. It has the trees. Now we need to clear the trees. There is a cost of clearing the trees, tilling the land, putting the beds, putting the mulch sheet, putting the irrigation systems, right? These are all the costs. That's a land preparation cost, I would say. And then we have the cost of buying the plants. The plants will be bought in a homestead locations, and the cost of shipping the plants from there. And then cost of planting the plants, and then cost of fertilizers, which we would apply before we plant them, staking them. These are all the different costs in terms of planting, right? And then we have costs in terms of operations. For example, this entire enterprise would be set up as a formal enterprise. We have attorney fees, we have the CPA services, we have the admin assistant services, and then we will have, once this is a platform setup, and then we will have regular maintenance, handling the weeds, handling the fertilizers, pesticides, the plants, and then looking at the diseases that are getting to the plant, or before we get the diseases if we want to handle, we'll talk about agronomy service, wherein a professional would visit the farm on an occasion basis, provide us a report saying, okay, this is good, this is not good, and this is what you spray, and I see a deficiency of nitrogen, you input this particular thing, and all that stuff. And another cost would be in terms of automation of the irrigation systems and the fertigation system. And this is until we start producing. And one of the important costs is that the management cost of it, which I will explain in the later stages. There is a management cost for running this whole show. And then once we start getting the production, for picking up the plants, we need a crew who will come down, pick up the fruits, and then pack them, and then ship them to a location where we would start distribution. So that's the cost that we would get into. And then once we deliver it, we will start getting the revenue. These are the different costs that we have. So I would have missed some of the costs, but then when we go through these in detail, you will have all of them.
That helps, Shashi. Yeah, thank you.
And is this all outsourced, or are you doing alone by yourself? It's the operations cost.
The complete operations cost would be taken as a service. For example, clearing the trees, it's called pushing the trees. That there would be a contractor who will come and do that activity. Now, there would be a different contractor who would lay the plastic and create the raised beds. It could be same contractor or different contractor. So it's like from now till the time of production, we're creating a work breakdown structure. For each of those activities, we are hiring contractors. There won't be any specific activity I would do myself with my hands, right? We won't buy tractors. We won't do it ourselves. Everything would be outsourced. Our idea is not to have a capital expense in terms of maintenance of the machineries. We would bring that as a service.
Okay.
Are we going to monitor, or like, because you're the promoter, right? So are you planning to go visit the farm?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. For example, the last 2 weeks, both the weeks I'm there in Florida. So whenever there are works, I would be there. But while it's not confirmed, but looking at the kind of projects that I'm getting into, this is not the only project that I would get into. I'm going to create some more. I would as well move to Florida.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So we're going to see Shashi in Florida.
Yes.
Okay.
Shashi, one more question. So how long it will take the plant to produce? Like when is the production?
It takes 3 years
time
for plant to grow, and then 4th year is when it will start producing.
Okay, 4th year. Okay.
Yeah.
And is there any other role for investors other than just the
You
money?
have all the roles, in the sense, if you want to be part of this entire thing, you're free to do that. It's going to be a voluntary activity. There is no return in terms of remuneration. So you are free to come over, be with us, learn, and then participate in this entire discussions. We're going to create a small group of board wherein